Hi everyone, I hope you guys are doing good. Today in this video we are going to talk about a prompt engineering. Prompt engineering is very important if you are working with any of the AI tool, any of the LLM. So this is a very important, this plays a significant role. And also we are going to talk about a .md file and what is the tokenization and de-tokenization and how a text is going to convert into the tokenization and how we get the responses from the LLMs. So all these things we will be discussing in this video. So as we are discussing AI series, and also I am requesting each and everyone to upgrade yourself. And if you are new to this video, kindly request you to go back and check my previous videos, some of the certification related, and how to improve ourselves and how we can upgrade to AI. All these things we have already discussed in previous videos. So let's start with the prompt engineering now. So first of all, how LLMs understand the text. So when you type something, right, you say or you give some task to the LLM, or you say ask to create an email, or read some document, or analyze some document, and provide some kind of insights about the document. How this works is you give an input, it convert into tokenization. So you don't need to get confused more on tokenization. Each system each LLM system or generative AIs having their own setup different kind of tokenization algorithms. So what need to know is how the system is working, that you have to understand. Once tokens are generated, the model works in a different fashion. It will go and fetch in vectors and embedding, and it's kind of patterns, and it will go and fetch the data in LLMs. Then when it comes to de-tokenization, human readable format, again it will convert into human readable format and it will give us the output. So this is a simple process, how a text is going to convert into tokenization, tokens getting converted into de-tokenization, and getting output. And why we are discussing why this prompt engineering is very important is when you are dealing with any kind of server or any kind of a premium version, right? So first of all, you should be master asking task, how clearly you are defining your task, what's your role exactly, what are you looking for, is there any sample, all these things you must have to define, you must have to train the AI. So then only you will get a better outcome. Otherwise if you ask, for example you ask to create a website tourism website, it will give a tourism web own information, but you have to clearly specify since I am in Texas, so can you create a website for Texas, all the cities, it include all the cities, all the places and all the hotels, I need a such kind of website where I wanted to deploy that website where people comes from out of the state, out of the countries, who can visit my website, they can able to understand and what are the places available to see, and other information, helpful information. So you should give a specific information and what exactly you are looking for, then only we will get proper information. And also we will be talking about .md file as well. Before going to that, we will be seeing practically how tokens are getting generated. Let me go to Claude and show you guys. Let me go to Claude. Yes. So I am just going to ask what is a good prompt. You see here the tokens are getting generated here. All the whatever I ask the question, right, it will get splitted into small chunks and it will create lot of tokens. So if you are if your contest or if your question is not clear, or you are giving a lot of misinformation, then all the tokens are going to get killed, and at the end of the day you are going to end up with utilizing more tokens. And when it is when it comes to paid version, right, you may not have complete information, or like you will be end up with like half of the work, or like you will end up with all the tokens. So this is how you get the response, right? So now how many tokens this got used, like that will be like counted, that is counted like every minute, like for example, if you are using like 1k token, and like there will be like so many tasks you will be doing, right? Each task, if you are using like 1k or 2k, so in a like 3 hours or 4 hours span, like you will be using almost like 100k tokens. So you will be end up with like 0. So you have to wait for another day to retain like all the tokens, then only you will be able to proceed your task. So that is the reason, like and also when you are creating a task, right, you must have to define that like what exactly you are looking for, what's your role in the organization. So I will show you that as well, like and also this is capable to read my project folder as well, right? So read project folder. So I have created a lot of projects, like so it will go and read in my project folder, project directory, and see if I have any kind of like .md files as well, like it will show us here, and we can ask. See here, we have some of the readme.md. So this is one of the file like which I have created for a task. So we can ask to like read that file, so that like it can generate a task, like whatever I have defined in that file. So we are going to talk more like how we have to create a .md files, like how clearly we can create it. Like there are a lot of tasks like I have performed. So here we will be talking about like .md file. So how we have to create a .md file. So .md file is nothing but a markdown file, like just you can create all the information in a text file and like save it as a .md instead of .txt. We will be saving it as a .md file. So this file, we will be feeding this file into the Claude or like any of the AI tool, where you no need to type like again and again. So you will be giving like clear instructions in the file that like what you are looking for, so that like it will create a complete information. You are working as a developer, or you are a QA, or you are a manager, or you are a lead. So you have to define your role there. So what your role exactly, like for example here I may be like define it as like Python developer, or QA engineer with 10 years of experience. So this will understand like what it has to do behalf of you, so that like it's easy for Claude or like any AI tool to understand. First like it will understand like, yes, this guy is like Python developer, yes, my task is something related to Python. And like you are going to create a task. For example, like you are asking here to create some script, and what is the context, like what exactly you are looking for. For example, like I wanted to automate some test case, or like I wanted to automate some pipeline, or I want to generate a script for like pipeline or API testing. Clearly we have to keep it here, all the requirements and the format. Sometime like if it is a document or something, what is the length you are looking for, what is the format you are looking for. And also if there is any kind of examples, right? For example, you are writing a test case. So your client, or like you need a such a different format of the test case, like in such cases, like you can give a sample test case as well, like this is the sample one, you can look and you can refer this test case. So in such cases, like what it does is like it will go and refer the sample test case, and it will clearly understand like your requirement completely. Then it will start functioning, it will start like giving you code, or generating your test cases, or like providing like any kind of Python or Java, any kind of HTML pages, or web application or mobile application, any kind of task it can done. So a few days back, like if you look into some of the videos of like Anthropic CEO has given clear instruction that like look, going forward, like maybe down the line 6 to 12 months, like we are capable to generate and handle all kind of coding. We don't need a human being to like code or like do something, right? So exactly like that is where they have implemented. That is where like even we are also getting trained, and like we are also trying to implement the same here. For example, like you are looking for a code, or like you are looking to develop some automation framework. you have to tell that like what is our role, what exactly we are looking for. For example, here this is one of the like .md file. You consider this as a .md file. Here we have kept it as like you are a senior Python developer and QA automation architect with 8+ years of experience, and have given a task here: design and build complete Python automation test framework, a web application. And also, if there is any framework exists, right, we can give that framework to the Claude. So for example, like if already you are working on some of the framework, you can deploy that, you can bring that code and keep it in the folder. Or if this is like first time project, you have not, you do not have anything, right, then you can define it here. So this is the first time, and I do not have any kind of framework, so that like it will start like structuring complete framework and complete code from scratch. You no need to like think about like if I do not have existing framework, what will happen. So it will take care everything, like end to end it will take care, but you have to define it, like what are you exactly looking for, each step, and rules and regulations, and like everything you have to define it. And then it will give like if there is any samples, like in such cases you may have samples, in some cases like you may not have samples. It doesn't mean that like .md file you have to create like single .md file. You can create a multiple .md files and like ask Claude to go through and like read it. So it will read all the files and understand, and like what is the task, and like it can do it like probably like in one file you can keep it all the examples, so that like it will take all examples and like read it, and like it can look into task. So probably like looking forward in some of the videos we will be talking like how exactly it works, like how sub agents and agents and like co-workers, all this works also, like we will be discussing more in some of the videos. So I don't want to make it like more lengthy and more confused, and like this is what I thought of discussing today's video. It's all about like prompt engineering and like .md file. And if you have any questions, like drop your comments below my video. Definitely like I will try to answer in further videos. So thank you so much for watching this video. Please do subscribe my channel. Thank you. Have a good day.